Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio with Business RadioX, the fastest growing B2B radio network in the country. I'm your host, Karen Nowicki, and I'm really pleased to be here with two incredible business individuals and leaders in our Arizona community. Jim Hall with Crescendo Business Solutions. Welcome.
Hello, Karen.
Happy to have you and happy to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
And Deborah Johnson with High Stakes Communications.
Hi.
Welcome. And it's been a while since you and I have seen each other.
It has been. It's been, a couple of months.
But I'm really thrilled to have you in the studio today. So as we always like to tee this off, when we start a Phoenix Business Radio episode or show, we just want to learn about your businesses and who you are and give our listeners a little bit of insight so that they're curious and want to learn more. So Deborah Johnson, the Witness Whisperer. I said that like I made that up, but I know I didn't. High Stakes Communications. Tell us who you are and how you're serving our beautiful community.
I work in a world where if the stakes are high, the communication is really critical. And so those are the places where I work. Principally, I work with attorneys preparing witnesses. In divorce cases, criminal cases, civil cases, it doesn't really matter what the case is. It matters, here's a person that needs to testify, maybe the client, and they don't come across well, or they're scared, or they're worried, or they're upset. And I happen to feel really at the core of my being is that if you can't be heard, there is no justice. And that's very, very important to me. You know, we have a right to an attorney, we have a right to a trial. But boy, if there's something about you that the judge doesn't like you, or the jury doesn't like you, or you're scared, or you're worried, or something, then they can't hear what you say. And so I don't think there's any justice in there if people can't hear what you say.
So attorneys then hire you to work with their witnesses.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing help them build up their confidence, their body language. Like, what does that all entail?
Well, the most important thing is exactly what you said, is confidence. So people are scared. They don't know what they're doing. They've never been in court. They've never been in a deposition. They don't know what to tell the judge. There's usually just a lot of stuff in their head. Like they have this big, huge story to tell. And some people just aren't good at organizing their thoughts or communicating to people.
And even when we are good at it, I know that you're helpful. I don't know if you recall, it's been a couple months ago, but I had to be a professional witness on behalf of one of my clients, and it was a divorce situation. And I'm fairly confident and I communicate fairly well. I was scared to death because of the circumstance and the situation and the position I was put in. And so was this parent on behalf of this client. Wow. Had I known that someone like you were available to be able to, put me at ease and give me the right languaging and positioning, you must feel great pride and satisfaction after working with witnesses.
Yeah, it is really my favorite part. And it was the thing that really brought me full force into this. I worked on a case very early with, he was an NFL football player, and he had been accused of rape. And his attorney called me in and said, look, this is a good guy. He deserves to be heard. But at the time, he was so angry and so upset. He'd had an ankle bracelet on for 2 years. He was just sort of fit to be tied. He sort of thought that, this woman who picked me up in a bar thought that I was a football player and she could get some money out of me. And so I thought, you know what, I'm not going to sit in judgment of whether he did or didn't do it, but do I think he has a right to be heard in front of the jury? Yes, they're going to make the decision, but he has a right to be heard. So I worked with him and, he got up on the stand and he was so calm and so collected and just told his part of the story. And it's unheard of. The jury came back 20 minutes, not guilty.
For a case like that.
Yeah. So this guy who loved kids and had been doing all this work with children in the community and in his home state, he got his life back. I mean, he threw his arms around me and he said, oh my God, thank you. You gave me my life back. Well,
I just get goosebumps.
I'm hooked, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I can help people. What it is that I know how to do can make this really big difference in people's lives.
And a big piece of it is you staying neutral. I love that you've said that a couple of times already in the short time we've been having this conversation, because it isn't whether or not you think they're the guilty. It's who are they being? And
Mhm.
had he stayed in anger and frustration, that's what they would have seen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that happens a lot. I happen to be particularly in love with working with people who are going through divorces because they get
Ugh.
crazy. It's this high emotional pitch. And, and it doesn't matter whether it's a husband or a wife. When they get in front of the custody evaluator or in front of the judge, sometimes all they can do is just like spew this anger or this frustration or whatever. And the judge never gets to hear, here's what I'm concerned about.
Wow.
Here's what the children look like when they've come home from a weekend with the other parent. This is what I'm worried about. They go in their room, they close the door, they won't talk to me. This makes me very concerned about what's going on rather than judge can't hear, right?
Right.
Judge needs to hear what's going on.
So certainly high stakes.
Oh, yeah.
What
Yeah.
a perfect name for your company, for your business,
Yeah.
because it is high stakes,
Yeah.
regardless of socioeconomic level.
Absolutely.
Is about our life and our livelihood and how we're showing up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then beyond that, I just love working with any kind of professional people who want to be seen and be heard better. So I love working with women because sometimes in business, women don't feel like they have a place at the table and they don't feel like they're heard. And so I love to work with them. Here's how you sit. Here's how you stand. Here's how you behave. Here's how you talk. Here's how you say what you need to say in a way that the people at the table will hear you so that you earned a right at the table. You have a right to be at the table, but getting people to listen to you is sometimes a skill that people don't have, no matter how brilliant they are. They need some help coming across well so that their ideas are heard, in the room.
We're all communicating 24/7, whether or not we know it, right? Obviously. How do you leverage that? How do you set a powerful foundation for every conversation you have?
Well, I think it's all about it's about thinking about who do you need to be in that moment. So I always tell people, stop in the elevator or in the parking garage or outside in the hallway, outside the door, take 3 deep breaths and think, who do I need to be in this room? Do I show up as this crazy ex-wife who's nuts, or do I show up as a thoughtful mother who cares about what happens with her children? Do I show up as, an attorney who wants to work on this negotiation? Do I show up as a business owner who actually wants to give you great service? Let's talk about the problem you ran into. I want to solve that problem for you. But when you if you stand outside the door and go, oh, I came here to solve this problem for you. You're brilliant, Jim. You really have this way of talking about that. But business owners don't always know how to do that.
Well, and as you were saying that, it made me think about that. That's a technique that I can use. And when you're stressed on time and you've got things that you need to get done, but you have to do something else, and you're about to walk into a meeting and you're trying to clear your head, what you said is that's going to stick with me. Who am I bringing into this meeting? And that's very succinct. Thank you.
Yeah. And I have this little thing when I'm working with people, I'm coaching or teaching is there are 3 parts to any conversation. The first part is, what do you want them to know? Got it. Most people are good at that. What do you want them to do? There's almost always a to do. But the third part that nobody ever talks about, I call it my secret sauce, is when the conversation is over, how do you want the other person to feel?
I was hoping that's what you're going to say. I'm like, oh, I think I know the answer to this.
That's
Wonderful.
exactly right.
Powerful.
So, when I talk to business people all the time, I talk about who's got teenagers and they raise their hands and I go, okay, here's the deal. You can either go into their room and start, you didn't do this and you didn't do that, and you're going to have to do this. And I'm sorry about that, right?
Guilty.
And you have no idea where it drops into. You don't know how they're feeling and you walk away and maybe you got what you wanted, maybe you didn't. If you stop and think at the end of this conversation, how do I want my child to feel? Oh, I want my child to feel like I love him and I trust him. Now that guides the whole conversation.
It's backward planning, isn't it?
Yeah, it's called reverse engineering.
Yeah, reverse engineering, right? To say, brilliant.
It is brilliant.
Yeah. So, if you work, people who work with money, it's not about, this percentage and that percentage and the return on investment, blah, blah, blah. You want that couple sitting across from you to feel safe. And if you go into the conversation with, I want you to feel safe in how I'm going to handle your money, you get completely different results. I would guess just off the top of my head that one of the things that, Jim, that your business gives people is freedom.
Certainly.
Right?
Certainly.
Interesting. You're selling freedom. You're not selling a phone system.
I've never thought about it that directly, but yes. Yes.
Yeah, you're selling freedom. So how do you want people to feel, including the judge or the custody evaluator or the guy that you're buying the car from?
Right.
Or the guy you're selling the car to, or the woman that handles your phone call at the, oh, for God's sake, healthcare place, wherever, whatever that is. How do you want them to feel? Who do you want to be in that conversation to get what you want?
Those 3 questions again, the knowledge.
What do you want them to know?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want them to do? And how do you want them to feel?
Brilliant.
Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you a little story. I did this for a group of attorneys because I do a lot of continuing education, lunch and learn in their law office. And woman called me. I did it on a Thursday or something. She called me on Monday and she said, oh my God, I don't remember anything else that you said except that last thing about how do you want them to feel. I'm a single mom, have a teenage son. That's what I did this weekend. That's all I did was think about how do I want him to feel. She said, we have never had a weekend like this ever.
Oh,
our communication shifted amazingly just because of that one little thing. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for telling me.
Incredible. There's a difference between talking and being heard, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
What? I mean, I say that, but what is the difference? Because that's what you're, in this example you're sharing, this kiddo probably felt heard for the first time.
Oh, yeah. 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 His mom was actually listening to him in a different way. And she was speaking in a different way. So when you put that idea in your head, oh, I want you to feel safe, or oh, I want you to feel loved, or I want you to feel that you have new freedom, it changes everything. It changes your body language. It changes your eye contact. It changes the words that you choose. But if you don't do that, if you don't set that out at the beginning of the conversation goes wherever it goes, and you don't know where it lands.
That's interesting because I pictured myself as my kids were younger, they're grown now, and having conversations like that. And also earlier in sales, I used to talk at people. I did not talk with them. And I used to invite them to meetings. I would say, I can't wait to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And someone one day corrected me. No, it's talk with them. If you're talking to them, don't bother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How did you find your way to this? I know you've shared with me before, but share for our listeners, and I'm not remembering.
Oh, it is a crookedy, funny little path. When I was in college, I was a psychology major and a communications major. I went out and worked for a little while. Then I went back to graduate school, University of Washington, and did my master's degree in cognitive psychology and video production. I was interested in how people think, how they learn, how they understand, what they do with information in their brains, so that I could use television. I was a TV producer. I could use it in a better way. I could have a bigger impact on people because nobody seemed to know how to do that. And I went, well, I'll go back to school and I'll figure this out. So I was, and then I was a TV producer, writer-producer around the country for 20 years.
Emmy Award winning.
6-time Emmy Award winning.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And so I was learning every day how to connect with an audience that we couldn't see. How could I write? And, what were the words and the pictures that would touch people, that would motivate them to do something? So how do I get you to change from the TV station you usually watch at 5:00 to come watch us at 5:00?
Interesting.
How do I persuade people? So I love to tell attorneys, I say, I had a jury verdict every morning. We were in an overnight market, and I could see the ratings shift. So if I'd done a really good job, we had a powerhouse story, we could see that the ratings went up a little bit. So I got a verdict thousands and thousands of times over my career.
And over again.
Yeah. This worked, that didn't work. That worked, this didn't work. I thought this was going to work. No, let me rewrite it. Let me rethink it. Let me do, I'm always about who's on the other side of the table from you and how do you connect with them?
Which is similar to what Jim was sharing about how you approach sales and telecom, right? Yeah.
Well, and we were, Deborah and I were in a networking group in the past, and I definitely learned. I remember a lot from the networking group, including the Emmy Awards, and just we took turns presenting in that group. And I remember
Yeah.
when Deborah presented, and I definitely walked out there with some great nuggets that changed the way I communicated with prospects and customers.
Well, thank
Very
you
helpful.
for saying that. Thanks.
So
Thanks.
you're a TV producer, and all of a sudden you decide, gee, I think I'll go help prepare witnesses.
No. So I worked here at a TV station. Then I left. I really was finished with my career in TV. I had a production company for a while. And during that time, I was coaching executives and professional people on how to do TV interviews. So something goes wrong in your company and somebody sticks a microphone in your face.
You're
How do you do
prepared.
that? How do you manage that? I was also coaching people on how to give speeches and do presentations. I got to work for Motorola, General Dynamics, and then work with some of the nonprofits in town, helping their CEOs do fundraisers. So how do you make that emotional connection to an audience to help them provide a lot of money for you? And I think about 9 years ago, an attorney in town knew I'd been working with execs, and he was going to trial, and he had really a horrible client. I mean, this guy was like, I'm the smartest guy in the room. You can't tell me anything. I know everything. And the attorney, who is brilliant, by the way, knew that he was in trouble, knew the jury was going to hate this guy. And so he said, would you be willing to work with him? And I always laugh. I tell people, yes, I can't make him worse. There's nothing I can do to hurt him, right? So yeah, let me give this a shot. So, I had prepared people to do interviews with Barbara Walters, with the BBC, New York
Wow.
Times. So, when you've got 6 million people watching you on Barbara Walters, there's a lot of pressure on how you show it up, every word, every
Sure.
movement. So I thought, let me give this a shot. Let me see if I can help him. And, it was one of those amazing moments when sort of everything in my life, my psychology background, every self-help class I'd ever taken to, self-improvement, psychology, master's degree, all that stuff sort of all came together. And it was like, there is this really cool place over here where I can apply everything that I know, and it matters. It makes a difference.
A huge difference.
Yeah.
So that particular witness and that particular client really ended up benefiting and off-launched your career to work with attorneys and help them with witness preparation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And I love that while that's your wheelhouse and really your specialty, you continue to be a speaker and an advocate for women in business and helping even just the leaders and business owners beef up their communication and their listening as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been invited to do some work with a Fortune 150 company with some of their executives, coaching them on their communication skills. These are some of the middle managers who are looking to move up, and they're all brilliant. They're wonderful. They're fabulous, but everybody's got a little gap somewhere. Everybody's got a place where they're either a little insecure, or they drive a little too hard, or something's just not connecting. And number one, I videotape them. I let them look at it so they get to see how they're coming across. And then together we work on how can they be better, and with folks at this level, I'm just kind of helping them sandpaper. And let them
fine tuning.
Yeah. Let them bring out the best of who they are. Because sometimes they don't know, they think they're too loud and they're not, they think they're too shy and they're not, they don't know how to handle those really tough conversations. So can I help them find a way to be in integrity with themselves and still be real clear about what has to happen? What's going right, what's going wrong.
Interesting. As an organization or a leader in an organization or a corporation, my feedback to these mid to high level leaders may not be spot on if I'm coming from a biased place and my own way of listening. Am I right?
Yeah.
And so as an outside resource and not only advocate, but also teacher, guide, mentor, you can find out what the needs are and help them. I love that you said, sandpaper and kind of fine tune it without it feeling probably as abrupt as it might if I, as the leader, had said, again, the kind of the parent and the kiddo thing.
Yeah,
That's not your approach.
Yeah. So, I think of it the way athletic coaches do it. They can see you in a way that you can't see. And what they're looking for is to help you do what you're doing better because they can see it. And then they can see when you change. So, if you're not quite getting over the hurdle, or if you're not, if you're not making that pass fast enough, or your peripheral vision on somebody trying to tackle you isn't there, they can help you see that where you can't.
Deborah, you also you mentioned just physical appearance and gestures and things like that. Do you find that when you coach someone on the actual speaking and the frame of mind and the 3 questions you mentioned before, you find that unknowingly, unconsciously allows them to change the way they're behaving and their body language?
Oh God, what a great question.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the question.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so that's what happens. Sometimes what attorneys do wrong, I hate to say that, but is that they're trying to say, sit up straight, don't smile, da-da-da. The stuff that drives your body language is either in your head or in your heart. So it's what you're thinking and what you're feeling drives all that body language. So the minute you feel better, then your shoulders relax, your face relaxes a little bit. You, when you're not afraid of what's going on, you'll make eye contact with me. You might, if you're not nervous about how you come across, you stop fidgeting with your hands. If you're an introvert, but you feel more confident about who you are and what you know, it's easier for you to actually lean into a conversation, but physically lean into the table a little bit, which is the signal for people that you're engaged. You really want to know what they hear. Introverts tend to want to sit away. And the signal is that our primordial DNA says, oh, if he's moving away from me, something's wrong. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But when you move in, when you lean in even like 2 inches, it really engages the other person. Because if I just lean towards you a little bit, then you're more here with me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So great question. Yeah. But that's driven by feeling comfortable, feeling confident, knowing that you're okay in the room, that what you're going to say is going to be heard. Yeah. And then you relax and it's just a whole lot easier.
Oh, what a tremendous service just to be able to provide that to someone.
Thank you.
Your question reminds me of when our 10-year-old was just starting to play baseball. His hands, and he was only, I think, 6 or 7, but his hands were always in his mouth, nervous, just constantly on the field, in the dugout, going up to bat. His hands were, and what his dad and I would say to him is, remind him, take your hands out of your mouth. You don't look confident. And at some point we realized we're not helping his cause at all.
No.
Because we're pointing out the weakness or the body language behavior. And when we began to shift and talk more about, the love of the game, how you're showing up there, what do you enjoy when you're batting, and what, when you're in this particular field position, what should you be focusing on? And we had those conversations and pointed out the positive things that he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It went away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
I had a chance to work with an executive in the real estate business. She had risen from, I think, sort of doing the mail to being an executive vice president of a huge company, Hispanic woman, lovely, amazing woman. And so people would call her all the time. Will you come and give a speech? Will you do this? We've got this women's group. Will you come? Will you come? And she would get up there and she would just rattle through her speech and get off the stage. And so I got a chance to work with her, and what I tapped into was her commitment to other women. So we talked about that. Like, what are you committed to? What do you want to have happen? I said, if you get up there and hurry, you're cheating them. Oh my, she stopped. She slowed down.
She took responsibility for that.
Yeah. So she was feeling like, I'm not good enough. I'm not okay. Let me hurry up and get off the stage. And when she realized that she was robbing them of her knowledge and her experience, boy, she slowed right down and started making these lovely connections with the audience. But she didn't see that. She couldn't see what she was doing.
How do you want them to feel?
I love this. It's exactly what I was thinking. Is obviously that was something that she had to consider.
Yeah.
Because she was so within herself, feeling the doubt or the insecurity, the lack of confidence, and it was coming across.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's a great segue for us to talk about your event coming up on the 22nd, right?
23rd, on Saturday.
Okay. So on Saturday, which is just a couple of days,
right.
Tell us about that.
Well, I'm doing a hands-on workshop for women. Sorry, Jim. But if you've got a wife,
some lipstick on you.
Yeah, that's right.
Come along.
It's called How to Get What You Want by Saying What You Mean.
Oh my gosh.
So it's 3-hour hands-on workshop to help women be clear get a lot more concise. Women's brains are built differently than men's brains are, and they get in our way sometimes. We sometimes tend to be too nice, or we're not clear. We do all the, we can't let go of defeats. We want to hang on to stuff, and it doesn't help us be confident, and it doesn't help us be successful. And so when you walk out at noon on Saturday, you're going to have a whole bunch of really nice skills and techniques to help you get what you want.
In 3 hours. I love that. It's a great introduction to your work. And I'm sure some of the techniques we talked about today are going to be repeated. And of course, a whole lot more. You're a great storyteller too. There's a piece to that. Is there in being able to communicate effectively?
Well, storytelling is really important. Yeah. Because it engages people in a way that data doesn't. And so the minute you start talking about another human being or an experience that you had rather than things, then people begin to draw pictures in their mind and they become engaged in that. Storytelling precedes written language. It precedes everything. And so it really is in our DNA to tell stories and to be tribal, to be community, to share these things. And so the more we can tell stories, the more we build community, we build that tribe, we build those connections.
Yeah. This event is being held where then?
It's at a great little restaurant on Osborne in Phoenix called Coup de Tarte. And it's $97 to come.
Oh my goodness.
For 3 hours.
That's
and you
fantastic.
get breakfast. And you get breakfast. Yeah.
Wonderful. And how can our listeners find out more about you and this particular event?
It's on my website. And the website, it's the name of my company. So it's www.high-stakes, STAKES. So it's high stakes communication, singular.com.
And information for the event is there as well?
Yeah, on the homepage, there's a little green box that says if you want to register, click on this and it'll send you over to the registration.
Make it easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. I really have had so much fun talking to both of you. And I love that when I came out to the lobby to bring you back to the studio, you both looked at me and said, well, we already know each other. I love that.
It's great. I haven't seen you for ages. And we looked at each other and I said, I know you. And Jim said, I know you. Where do I know you from? Yeah.
So fun and such a rich conversation, really around taking care of people, building relationships and being in the listening, right? From a customer service perspective and offering telecom to helping witnesses on the stand really be able to have a voice and step out of their vulnerability and perhaps anger and frustration. And then really just raising the vibration for us as human beings and showing up in the world more confidently. I want to thank you so much for both being here.
This was a pleasure.
It really
Thank
was.
you. It's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. On behalf of Phoenix Business RadioX, where we help build businesses and connect with the right people, I'm Karen Nowicki, and we'll see you next time.